Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we have another fun video. So I was speaking to my friend and she is not a reader at all, but bless her, she watches all of my videos, which is so sweet. But she said, Chantal, can I have some recommendations of books for beginners? Books for people that do not read, who want to get into reading. So I thought I would run through some books with you. I have 5 books here that I think are great for people who want to get into reading, first time readers, that sort of vibe. Just want to note that I also have a video that I posted, I think last year now, but that was some tips on how to read more books, which I think is really useful. So I will link that video down below in the description box. So do give that a watch because there are some really helpful tips on really practical ways that you can get more reading into your daily life. But for this video, I'm going to run through some books with you that I think you may love. Well, at least I love. And I think if I was getting into reading, I would really like to start with these ones as they are so good and so gripping and fun. So without further ado, I've got my iPad here to tell you about them. But the first book on my list is Annihilation. And I feel like whenever anyone who maybe doesn't read so much has asked for a recommendation, I always say Annihilation. For one, it's a short book. When you're getting into reading, you don't want to be going in with these really hefty books that are going to take ages and ages and ages to read. So I think this is a really great one because yeah, it's really short and it is so gripping. When I read this book, I could not put it down. I had to know what happened. I was constantly reading this book. I think I read it in like a day. I loved it so much. So I think this is a really great one for people who are wanting to get into reading. I'll give you a little bit of a synopsis of what it's about. It's basically surrounding this place called Area X. People used to live there but can no longer live there. It's this big area and lots of scientists and experts have expeditions to go into this Area X to try and discover what has happened. But after every expedition, they either don't come back, or if they do come back, they come back severely altered. They are not themselves, and nobody knows what happens to them or what happens there because they can't really communicate. So then we follow one expedition that goes into this Area X, following a linguist, a biologist, and a few other scientists to sort of try and discover what happens. And this book is just so good. It's so gripping. Like, you need to know what happens and what is going on to all these people, where they're going, and what has caused this area to be so dangerous. It's just such a good book to start with. So gripping, like I said, and yeah, I highly recommend it. This is one that I recommend the most, I would say, to people. Also, one more thing to note about this book is that it's a trilogy. So if you did read this book and you really enjoyed it, you automatically have 2 more books that you can read straight away and carry on that reading journey, get into the flow of it. I would say that this is definitely the best one out of the trilogy, but like I said, it's an easy win. If you like the world, if you like the characters, then hopefully you'll like the other 2 books in the trilogy. So yeah, one to note with this one. Then my next recommendation is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I just love Kazuo Ishiguro. I think they are a great author. They have so many books that you can delve into. So if you did like this one, then they've got plenty more books that you can read. But I think this one is a great one for beginners because I have not heard anyone say a negative thing about this book. And it's a very, very popular book. I feel like this story has a mix of everything that you want from a reading experience. It has love, friendship, mystery, drama. It has it all. So this is why I think it's a great one if you're wanting to get into reading. So this book is centered around this sort of idyllic boarding school full of children, but everything is not quite as it seems. I feel like everything in this book feels almost normal until you actually discover what is going on in this school. And I don't want to say much more than that because I think the joy is finding out the mystery and discovering it for yourself. But just note, this book is very popular and I haven't heard anyone say anything bad about it. So I think it's a fail-safe. I think when you're wanting to get into reading, you want to go for books that you know are going to be good. So I've tried to pick books that have generally very good reviews so that hopefully you will like it too, and then that will spur you on to read even more. Then the next book I'm recommending is Happy Hour by Marlo Granados. Now, when I first read this book, I think I gave it like a 3 stars because I think I was wanting like more of a deeper meaning to it. But I think this book is actually just a really fun book to read, and really fun if you're wanting to get into reading. It's about two girls, they're 21 years old, and they go to live in New York. They've got no real plan, they've got no real money, but through their connections they find themselves sort of mingling with the rich and elite, the New York socialites, even though they can't afford to pay their rent every month. And this book is given like sort of like Gossip Girl vibes. It's just a really fun read set in New York. Like, what more could you want? So I think this is a really great, fun, carefree read that I highly recommend. Then next up, my next recommendation is Misery by Stephen King. And I think Stephen King is such a great author to start with if you're wanting to get into reading. His writing is so accessible and his stories are so gripping. They are all super scary. So if you love a horror film, then definitely give Stephen King a try. And I think Misery is one of his best. When I was reading this book, I was so stressed and scared, and the story is so tense that you just cannot put this book down. And again, that is just what you want when starting out reading. So I feel this book is quite hard to explain. It's about a woman named Annie who is obsessed with a series of books centered around the main character called Misery. Now, the author of these books centered around Misery has just killed Misery off, and Annie is not happy about that. So when she finds the author of this book has been in a car accident near her house, she takes him into her very remote house in the middle of nowhere and vows to bring him back to health. However, she will not let him go until he rewrites the story to change Misery's fate. She is super obsessed. She is such a scary woman holding this author hostage, and it gets super, super dark. I was not expecting it to go where it went. It was just such a gripping book though, like had me on the edge of my seat. So if you're wanting to get into reading, this book is the book to read because you will be so gripped, especially as Halloween is coming up. This is just the perfect book to put on your reading list ASAP. Then the final book that I'm going to recommend to you guys is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. And this is just a classic. Everybody loves this book. I don't know anyone who does not love this book. I feel like Secret History is just a book lover's dream. So if you're wanting to get into reading, hopefully this book will make you just fall in love with reading and books and learning. It's set in a college in New England, and on the first page you hear that there's been a murder. And I think that's perfect because it grips you straight away. Straight from the first page, you want to know what has happened. It's centered around this group of friends / classmates who all study Greek in this sort of exclusive class where there's only, I think, around like 6 students allowed. And you hear about each of their individual backstories and secrets to sort of discover how they got into this situation, because they are at the center of this murder. And this book was so stressful to read. I was so stressed because you get to know these characters so much that you sort of can see all their flaws, but you sort of want it to turn out okay for them. So this book is just amazing. The setting, the characters, the plot, everything 10 out of 10. I loved it and I hope you will too. So they are a quick run through of some books that I think are great if you want to get into reading. I think you want some really fast-paced books with great plot lines that are going to absolutely grip you from the offset, and I think these ones do. But like I said, do go and watch my other video, which I will link below, of some really practical tips that you can take into your everyday life to help you read more books. So I hope this video inspired you to go out and get some books. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.